Hi everyone, it's Valor from Online Combat Battalion with another Arma 3 editor tutorial for you. This one is going to showcase a modification that you can get from the Steam Workshop called MGI Advanced Modules. It's created by PierreMGI and it is a really simple to use mod that gives you some really fantastic functionality in your missions that you would otherwise have to script in and use all sorts of funky stuff to get things to work the way you want them to. This is a really easy way of doing it. I've been using MGI now for years. I don't use it in all of my missions, but quite often I will because it is just so cool. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you how to do with MGI Advanced Modules is to drop a vehicle instead of a ammo crate when you ask for a supply drop. So of course, as with all missions, we need your playable unit, and I've actually synced some AI to the playable unit. Now I normally do not use AI in my missions really at all on the friendly side, but I've put them in there because I'm going to showcase some stuff regarding AI shortly. So the supply drop. We'll go to systems, and firstly we need to go to supports, and we need a support requester. That's the first thing. We then need a supply drop virtual. Place that down, and then in MGI Advanced Modules we go down to select drop vehicles instead of crates. Now in here we have default helicopter and a default crate that is to be dropped. Now you can change these by adding the class names in there of the helicopter that you want to use, as well as the class names for the vehicles that you want to have used. So instead of editing those, what you can actually do is I want to have a Mark 19 Hummer dropped, and I want it dropped by a CH-47 cargo. So instead of editing the class names here, you can simply highlight those by left click and drag, right click, connect and sync to the drop module. Now the drop module needs to be synced to the supply drop virtual. That now needs to be synced to the support requester, and the support requester is now synced to whichever playable unit or units you want to have supports available to, and in this it's just my playable unit. Now when the mission loads in, because these two are synced to the drop vehicles instead of crates module, these will disappear and you won't be able to see them. So essentially they're invisible and not there because they're synced to the module for the module to use those vehicles. And for your immersion, what you want to be able to do is just take those objects and put them somewhere on the map where you don't need to, well, where you want those to come from. So you don't want to have those modules placed exactly where you are when you request that drop. So they will now fly in from this location here, and they will drop anywhere on the map that I request them. So I'll show you how that works. One thing just before I do that is in the drop module you can actually enable arsenal on the vehicle. Okay, so you tick that and marker on the vehicle and tick that. It will create a vehicle. It will have a signal on the vehicle which will be a smoke grenade, and it will also create a marker. Now you'll see that the class names of those vehicles that I have synced to this module are now inside where we would have put the class names if we were doing it manually. So let's see how that works.
Now on standby. Out.
Okay, so we've got our notification that support units are on standby, and I'm going to send my AI over
Move
there.
75 meters, right.
Will go.
Because AI players in my squad really annoy me. Okay, so let's go to 0 and 8. I'm going to ask for a supply drop,
Standing by.
and I'm going to have it here.
Requesting supply drop at the transmitted coordinates. Over.
And here comes the helo. Remember, this will spawn in
Supplies en route.
on the map
Out.
wherever you place the module, and that will fly to the location you want the drop. It'll do the drop and then fly away again back to the direction of the module.
Supplies have been dropped. Out.
Okay, so now I have the chopper flying away after the drop, which will fly back to the module location and despawn. And I have my Mark 19 Hummer with a smoke signal flare attached. It should also create a marker on the map, and there it has. And this vehicle will be a full arsenal. Okay, so there probably is a way to, let me have a look. Oh, actually that's really nice, because it's not just the default Arma 3 arsenal, it has picked up and loaded everything in the mods that I'm currently running, which is really awesome. So that is the support module to drop a vehicle instead of a crate, which is kind of cool. The next feature of MGI Advanced Modules I'm going to show you is the AI respawn system. Now, anyone that's been playing Arma for a while realizes that AI don't respawn unless you're using some mod or script or some tricky stuff. This is a really simple way to ensure that your AI will respawn. So we go to the MGI Advanced Modules and go to AI can respawn module. Place that down on the map, and there's some parameters in here that you can play with. And what I normally would do if I was going to use this is respawn position for west at the position of death or near the leader position. Okay, which is the easiest. So they will respawn near the leader of their group. The other way you can do it is to place a marker on the map as detailed here, which is you would need to give it the variable name of MGI Resp West AI, and that's where they will spawn. But I'm just going to do that on the leader position. So now when these guys get taken out, they will respawn near me and rejoin my group. So I'm just going to set myself as damage disabled, and I'm going to put some enemy AI in here and see if I can knock a couple of these guys over, and you'll watch that they will respawn. Okay, so my AI troops are over here, and I'm going to place a couple of enemy AI. Let's see. No, I don't want to use any of them. Let's have some Pakistani militia. And I'm not sure if you're aware, for those who haven't used Zeus much, you can actually use a Zeus module to go to remote control, so you can control this AI unit you've just placed down. So I'm going to try to damage some of these guys, or kill some, and we'll watch them respawn. Wow, I got taken out fast. Okay, so that guy looks like he's been killed. There you go. He has respawned. Not only has he respawned, but he's rejoined my group. So that is the AI respawn system, and if you need a mission where AI respawn for you, that is the simplest way to do it. MGI Advanced Modules is the simplest way to do it. The next module from MGI Advanced Modules I'm going to show you is the Heal and Revive module. So we just grab that from the MGI Enhanced Modules list, and we'll open that up and have a bit of a look. So heal or respawn some West, and in here we've got some options you can select. West leader played groups, West playable groups, or all West groups. So if you select West playable, they will heal or revive any human players that are in Blue 4. If you put all West, they will also heal and revive other Blue 4 AI groups. Okay, so we'll test that out and see how that works. A couple of things you can do here. You can select that they need a first aid kit or med kit, or you can leave it as no kit needed. And you can add a white flag to them whilst they are healing. So I'm just going to select that to see what it looks like, because I haven't seen that feature before. I think there's been some updates. So we're going to have a look at that now and see how that works. Okay, so I'm going to injure one of my guys.
One, ceasefire. Injured.
Okay, so someone's injured. No one's doing any healing yet.
One, ceasefire.
Okay, he's down, and one of the AI has now spawned a white flag, and he is healing / reviving that AI unit. And then the white flag will disappear, and this guy is good to go again. So if you want AI medics, that's a pretty easy way to have it. Next cool feature in the MGI modules that I can show you is you'll see there's a module called Prisoners. So you place one of those on the map, double left click, and there's a few little bits and pieces here you can change, but there's no real need to change those. You'll also see there's something down here called Mark Jails on Map. Now if you have a trigger and you sync the trigger to the module, this area becomes a jail and the AI will be imprisoned there. But what happens with this is once there's a ratio of 1 of you to 2 of them remaining, then they will surrender. They will drop their weapons, and I'll show you how that works.
Support units are now on standby. Out.
So you have to be within a certain distance of these guys for them to start to surrender, and there needs to be a certain ratio of you to them for them to start to surrender as well. And you do need to point your weapon at them. There we go, the first one's just surrendered. Oh, that one surrendered just as I fired. How unfortunate for you. You can grab their gear and go through their gear. If you go up to a surrendered unit, you can order them to, with your scroll menu, sit down.
Area clear.
You can then order them to follow you. So if you walk, if you walk, it normally works. Come on, mate, you're following me. Let's go. This is a little buggy at times. I'll order you to sit down again, then I'll order you to follow me, and I'll just start walking and see what happens. There we go. Finally. So he's going to follow me. We can't let him. We can't get too far away from him. If we start to get too far, he gets confused, and I think the idea is he starts to think, "Hey, I can run away." So we don't want to get too far away from him, and he will follow you, provided you don't get too far away. Come on now. Keep coming. There we go. And because I've synced that prisoner module to a trigger inside this hangar, once this guy is inside the trigger, he will sit down and place his hands behind his back as though he is handcuffed. And he is now a prisoner in the jail, and he will remain there, I believe, until you go up to him and use your scroll wheel to select "You are free," and then he will get up and be on his way. So that's the prisoner module, which I think is really cool. So they can surrender, you can capture them and take them to a jail zone. If you are having a scenario where you want your players to go and find their own stuff, like it may be a survival type scenario, or it might just be a simple team versus team deathmatch kind of thing, but people spawn without weapons, and you want the guys to go and find their own, well, with MGI Advanced Modules, it's really easy to do that. There's a module within MGI called Loot Weapons and Items in Houses. So you just place that onto the map. Now, if we double left click that, it will give you a percentage of how many houses or buildings on the map you want to have with loot in them. 40% is the optimal, and I'm going to leave it at that. And here you can actually select the type of loot. So instead of having Arma default stuff, I'm going to select Cup and US Forces for RHS. So leaving this as it is, 40% of the buildings on the map that are enterable will have some sort of Cup or RHS US Force weapons, ammunition, etc. If I wanted to restrict that down a little bit and just have it in a specific area, you can place a trigger, and I'll have the trigger covering these buildings here, and what is going on there? A part of the hangar, and you can sync the loot module directly to the trigger, and these buildings should now have loot in them, and let's see how that works.
Be advised, support units are now on standby. Out.
Okay, so let's go find some loot. I did use this module in a mission where we had an insurgency operating in an area, and one of the tasks was to move into an area and search for stashed weapons. So that's something that you could use this for. Okay, no loot in this one. No loot in this one. Aha, there we go. We have some sort of Russian AK variant. We have a pistol with some magazines. Nothing in here. Nothing. Nothing in here. So as you can see, it won't be absolutely everywhere, but you will have some loot stored in buildings. Let me check the hangar. able to find anything in here either, but oh, there we go. There's another weapon, an M16 variant. So that's the sort of thing you can do with the loot module, which I think is pretty cool. Another really cool feature of MGI Advanced modules is the civilian life module. So you can just grab one of those from the MGI Enhanced modules and go into map view, and you'll see that there's a default size for this zone that I've placed over a town. Now if you wanted to change that size or have a different zone, you can simply use a couple of triggers, and I'll put a couple of triggers down, and I can sync those triggers to the module, and that's where my civilian zones will be rather than the default of the module. So you can move these anywhere you like on the map and it'll work, and when your players enter the zone you will get civilians starting to spawn in. So I'm just going to use one zone. I'll take that one out, and I might just increase the size of this one just a little bit. There we go. Now inside the module itself, if you double left click, you've got some size options here. Default size, you can change the size. You can have the populated areas as standard, half the population, 2 times, 4 times the population of an area. I'm just going to leave it at standard. Spawn them at start, I'd probably leave that unchecked, because if you have that checked then the AI will spawn into the mission as soon as it starts, whether your players are there or not. So leave that alone, because once you move away from the zone the AI will despawn, saving your server resources. Really cool feature of this one is enable kamikazes. So civilians that will try to take you out with IEDs, etc. You can set that to have no kamikazes. It may occur, stay sharp, or aggressive setting. I'm going to leave it on stay sharp, and here you can select the civilian type that you want to use based on the mods you have loaded. So I'm going to select Capchinaris, and I'm going to select no, I'm just going to leave it as Capchinaris, I think, and Arma 3 standard ones for that as well, and we'll test that out and see how that works. So heading into this village, and there should be some civilians around and visible shortly. I'll just increase the time a little bit and see what we get. So far I haven't seen any civilians. Ah, there we go. Here they come. And they will just be walking around like normal civilians in a village. I'm not sure that you can interact with them other than them potentially trying to blow you up. Oh, you can open the gear they've got. Open door. Open engineer pouch. No. And you can see what gear they've got. But they'll just do their normal civilian thing. And you do have a possibility that some of the civilians may not like you being there, and they may try to take you out. Okay, and as soon as I move away from this area, these civilians will despawn. That will protect your server resources. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail with any of the other MGI Enhanced modules. You can grab the mod and have a look at it yourself. I'm going to put the link in the description below. There are other things like car traffic, which you would sync to a trigger, and then it would give you vehicle traffic. Again, you can select the density of traffic and the mods that you want to use, and ensure that if you're, say, for example, going to select RHS cars, that you have the RHS mod loaded. If not, just leave it as Arma 3 cars. Okay. There are other things such as blast and fire. What does that do? Okay. Blowing off doors, etc. You can demine with det cord. Vehicle respawn. Spawn a group attack. So I'm going to leave those for you guys to play around with. If you have any questions, you can ask in our comment section below or in our Discord regarding MGI Advanced Modules, or you can contact PierreMGI directly via the Steam Workshop in the comment section of the mod to ask him any questions. But there's a lot of modules there to play around with and have a look at. So enjoy. Some of the features I've shown you in here are some of the stuff that I use, and it really is quite a good series of modules. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already. Check us out in the comments below if you need questions answered, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
You